someone fucking went in there and emailed my investments professor. I am so horny. I know. You know those times in your life when you feel like you failed at something? Maybe you set an objective or a goal and you didn't meet it, or perhaps you made a mistake, something that made you go, ugh, I screwed up. There's no coming back.
We don't know about all of you, but the three of us do have a tendency to be a little hard on ourselves sometimes when we don't achieve the thing that we set out to achieve, whether it's an expectation that we set for ourselves or one that was placed on us by society.
But mistakes and failures are not only part of life, they are necessary for success. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking through our personal biggest mistakes and failures and what we learned from them.
We have all here achieved so many life milestones, but also faced a lot of failures in some of these milestones as well. And there's a whole range of topics we can cover, right? From academics to our stint in the corporate world to our relationships with other people to our personal lives. Let's start with academics. Just kick it off with, what is your biggest fail in school, in academics?
Who wants to go first?
Janet?
Well,
I'll go first.
All right.
I will say that by hearing our past stories, I think academics is pretty high on our value list, especially when with our immigrant parents. So my biggest failure was when I got my first C in college. Because leading up to that moment, I was in a pretty straight A, B student. It was my first time getting a C at UCSD. And I felt like such a failure because I just transferred into this big university and my first grade was a C. And I think that C symbolized that I couldn't keep up with this prestigious school that I really wanted to be a part of.
What was it in?
I don't remember, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I just remember being like, oh my God, I'm not meant for this level. And I wanted to get to a UC too, especially UCSD. And so many thoughts were rolling through my head of oh my gosh, maybe I'm not good enough for this school. I can't keep up with these big kids, that maybe I need to go back to community college. It's just such a discrepancy in terms of maybe status or levels of the schools. And so seeing that, I was like, oh, I'm not actually smart or cut out for this. And my GPA definitely lowered.
How did you recover from that situation, or what did you do mentally to prepare? Did you ever get a C ever again, or?
I definitely got more C's after that.
but they didn't quite hit you as hard as what you're saying, right?
I think first one's always damn, what happened?
Yeah.
And then I think just talking to my other friends that were also transfer students, that they also felt the same way, that oh my God, this is such a the transition was such a shock to them because we all of us came from community college. And so knowing that that was common, and then talking to other people who have been there from freshman year on, that, hey, university level is harder. It is what it is. So I think what I did was I tempered my expectations. I was like, okay, I won't be a 3.8 GPA student anymore like I was in high school. I'll be a 3.0. It's fine. And I think after that, realizing that hey, in the end, just keep it above a 3. You're going to graduate. It's going to be fine. So after I kind of tempered my expectations, I feel like I placed value on other things that really mattered to me more. I was like, okay, let's focus less on academics. I'm still going to try my best to get a good grade and not skip class, which I didn't. But I focused on creating memories with my roommates, my org. And I really feel like now when I reflect back on college, I don't remember my GPA. I remember the memories I created instead.
Yeah. I like that. I think so. What I took away from your story is the thing that you used to place so much value on, you shifted. So it's an example of, instead of trying to force yourself to keep achieving that thing, you learn to look at it in a new light and focus your energy of achievement on other things that are of higher value to you.
Exactly. How about you two?
I guess the topic is in academics, but my biggest fail that I think about with school was not getting into UC Berkeley.
Oh,
that was
my
my
gosh,
dream
yes.
school. That was, and actually, I still I quite vividly remember that period in high school when everyone was getting their college acceptance letters.
Yeah.
I think quite a few people in my high school, we didn't have a good concept of where we of what you needed to do to get into a UC and what your acceptance levels. I just remember there were a lot of people who, when we got our acceptance letters back, were a little bit shocked, or people in like the gifted and talented program were like, obviously we're going to get into these schools or whatever, and it didn't necessarily happen that way. And for me, I think UC Berkeley was like, I just knew I wanted to get into a good school, and perhaps because like my dad had taken my cousin and I to go up to like visit, I just created an image in my head that that's a thing I need to achieve. And they called UC Berkeley like the Harvard of the UCs or whatever, right? And I still vividly remember getting the letter, and it was a small envelope. And they always tell you if it's a small envelope, it's not right. And I sat like in my room looking at the window. I opened it up, and the moment I read it, that was the first time I like, or maybe not the first time, but I just remember like actually crying. Like I burst into tears, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Just being so disappointed. But after like kind of like collecting myself and realizing like I still got into like UC San Diego, and UCLA I didn't get into, but I also like didn't really want to. A lot of my friends wanted to go to UCLA and they didn't really care about Berkeley. I really cared about Berkeley. I didn't really care about UCLA. But the going into UCSD, then I reframed and I was like, you know what, if this is where I'm going, then I'm gonna do everything I can to kill it here. And so I kind of refocused, and I think for me that was a lesson in learning how to turn like lemons into lemonade, I guess.
I feel like when you said not getting to Berkeley, I think so many people listening can relate to that moment, because I feel like everyone I went to high school with, Berkeley was like number one choice for everyone. Like a lot of people, and like a lot of people didn't get in either. Yeah. And I can see why when you're like, especially in like a Asian household, I feel like in my family, the only thing they know is UCLA and Berkeley. Like I know how to say it in Mandarin, because that's been like shoved into my brain. In Mandarin? Like Berkeley. Berkeley, right? And then UCLA. UCLA.
That's not a Mandarin.
I don't know. Okay, maybe I said it wrong, but I don't know how to say UCSD in like Chinese, because I was
San Diego.
I don't know, but I feel like growing up, because these weren't schools our parents said you have to get into this, we weren't taught how to say it. So obviously it put more pressure on like UCLA and Berkeley. So I could see how devastating it could have been when you didn't get in. But I mean, I'm biased. I love UCSD, so I'm happy you went to that school.
Dang, I'm sandwiched between two Tritons.
Yeah.
And you're married to one.
And I'm triangulated by Tritons. Yes.
Hi everyone, I've been a longtime fan of being in touch with and understanding my body. So when I heard about Lumen, I was instantly intrigued. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. How cool is that? Why does metabolic health matter? Well, your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into fuel that gives you energy and keeps you going. And because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does, maintaining optimal metabolic health can improve your energy levels, give you better fitness results, and even better sleep. Here's how it works. Breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning to see what is going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. This is so great because I usually know what I should be eating, but I'm not always clear on how much or when in order to improve my nutrition, my workouts, my sleep, and even stress management. You can also breathe into your Lumen before and after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. Once again, I think this is so cool. And another thing is that Lumen actually also tracks your cycle if you want it to, and so it can catch if you're approaching the onset of menopause and adjust your recommendations to keep your metabolism healthy through hormonal shifts. If you're like me and you want to be more in tune with your body and nerd out on things like this, go to lumen.me and use ABG to get $50 off your Lumen. That's LUMEN.me and use ABG at checkout for $50 off. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode.
Okay, I will share my biggest academic failure. I might have shared this on this podcast before, but it is literally like the biggest, I feel like, academic fail for me. And it was my investments final in college, my senior year. This was, oh man, these memories are like flooding back and I'm just like, oh. Okay, so for our finals, we usually take this all at one time, right? Whoever takes investments, they like make sure it's like finals at a certain time, you have to be at a certain place. I was the type of person who's like a master crammer. Maybe I still am, but I don't know if anyone out there is like that. I don't know if you ladies were, but like
I was
rammed the night before and would pull all-nighters. Sometimes I would even like sleep in the classroom next to where I'm taking the exam so that I ensure that I'm like there and present and ready to just like hop in, take the exam, go back and sleep. Like that's how crazy I was, but that's just how I was able to survive college. And so for this particular exam, I woke up, I slept for 3 hours in my bed and woke up 5 minutes right before 9 a.m. 9 a.m. was what was the finals time. Went to this place called The Rat, which is like our lower dining hall. No one was there. Shock on my face. I was like, where's everyone? It was the worst feeling. I still remember that like guttural, just like wanting to like puke feeling. So then I went to this communal computer and I emailed my professor, or I like checked the emails and checked the times. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's actually in another place. He had already sent me an email and he was like, Helen, where are you? Everyone's taking the finals. And then I was like, all right, gotta run. So I ran, did not log out of my laptop or the communal computer. I didn't log out of my email. And someone fucking went in there and emailed my investments professor and said, I am so horny.
Who is this person that would do that?
I forgot that. I know. This like super straight edge, like investments professor. He sent that email to him and I like died after like later on when I saw it.
Oh my god.
But like I showed up and he was just like
not horny.
Sorry. I was the opposite of horny at that point, okay? But like I was so frantic and he didn't say anything to me, right? He didn't like address the question. He just handed me the final and I'm sure he saw the email. But he gave me the final and then he didn't give me extra time. I was already hella late. So that was the first time I actually got a D+ on a final.
D?
A D.
Oh god.
He was like, "Oh, you want that D?" I get D+. But it was so embarrassing. I think if it was like in classics or like in, I don't know, like another subject, history or something, I would have been okay with that. But like I'm a finance major. This is like a core finance class. And to get a D+, I was so embarrassed. I was just like, I cannot tell anyone about this. What's crazy is that I had already gotten my offer for EY.
Oh, thank God.
Check the timestamps. A month before that final, before that email, because I went back to look at the email to see what exactly it said. I am so horny, period. And I had already gotten the offer. So I was kind of more like reassured. I'm sure that if they saw that grade, they probably would have rescinded the offer, perhaps, or like questioned it, like what happened, like I don't know. But in that moment, I remember thinking to myself, "What a fail! Why am I a finance major if I can't if I did this badly on the exam, question all of like my lifestyle habits? How come all the students were able to show up on time and I wasn't?" Like it just felt like such a big fail.
Yeah.
So what's crazy is that going back to my emails, I saw this email from like Google that had emailed and was like, hey, it was a direct contact that was like, hey, do you want to apply for the START program and like potentially be a Googler? And I had said no because I already accepted I know I could have been a Googler, but I said no because I'm about to accept my offer from another company. So said no to that. And when I think back, I do think that if EY had seen that grade and said no, there could have been another path that I would have taken, you know?
Yeah.
So when I think about this moment, it really does just feel like a moment. Like sometimes these fail moments feel like so heavy on us, right? But sometimes they're just moments that like redirect us to a different path in life. Like once a door closes, another one opens. Could I have been like it at Google? Perhaps, right? But is that like a right or wrong direction? I don't think so. It would have been a direction, right?
Yeah.
Like your life just takes different directions despite feeling like your world is crumbling around you. So that was like the reflection I got from looking back at the emails and thinking about like just life and how crazy these like failed moments are and how like heavy they feel. Yeah.
I will 100% admit that I'm a treat yourself type of gal. If I complete a tough project, you best believe I'll get that delivery food. And yes, I do need that cute sweater after a stressful move. Why not pay a bit more for that coffee in that vibey cafe? You need to reward yourself from time to time for all the hard work you're putting in. Another way you can treat yourself is by having the best options when it comes to your doctor. You don't settle for other things in life. Why settle when finding a doctor? It is your health after all. This is where ZocDoc comes in, the place where you can find and book tens of thousands of top-tier doctors, all with verified patient reviews. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare highly rated in-network doctors near you and instantly book appointments with them online. Once you find the doctor you want, you can book them immediately, and I mean like instantly. No more waiting awkwardly on hold with receptionists. The typical wait time to see a doctor booked on ZocDoc is between just 24 to 72 hours. That's it. You can even score some same-day appointments. As you're looking for your doctor, you can also filter by who takes your insurance, are they located near you, and treat basically any conditions you're searching for. I loved my doctor in LA, but since I moved, I had to look for a new primary physician. I'm definitely going to use ZocDoc, and you should too if you just relocated and looking for new care. Go to ZocDoc.com/ABG and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/ABG, ZocDoc.com/ABG.
I wanted to know if you figured out who sent that email. I think that's so malicious.
I know.
And I think back to because when I had come back from college during the summer and then talked to some friends who had gone to Berkeley, they did share how people were really competitive in what would you call it?
Conniving
way. Yeah.
way.
And this guy was an engineering major, and he's people would go in and take my book or purposefully put in the wrong information or give me the wrong test. And I was like, I didn't have that experience at UCSD, so maybe.
Yeah, that's cray.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably just a bored kid. I mean, it's 9 a.m. What are you?
But that's such a childish thing to I don't know. Oh, I'm dumb. Two things. When you said you got the email from Google and you're responding, I was gonna say, I'm so horny.
No, definitely did not say that.
And the second thing is okay.
Oh, that was your first thing?
Yeah. Okay. I had to say it. Sorry, I was trying to hold in my laughter. I just can't believe, what time did your professor email you the update of when to meet at a new place? I'm just
It wasn't an update because the schedule is out there. The schedule for your finals, it's out on the internet. You just have to search whatever for it. So he didn't email me the location.
But then that's weird. I don't know. I just feel how did it change?
It didn't change. I messed up.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was on the other side. Sorry.
I thought it was there, but in my frantic state of waking up late or whatever, I probably mixed it with another final and then ended up showing
Got it.
Yeah.
I like the takeaway that you have of that story though, because it's it seems to your point, something was the worst thing that could have happened. And it was I failed, I didn't do a thing. But say the worst case scenario happened and your offer was rescinded, you would have had other options that could have been the same, better, you never know, right?
I mean, I feel that's the same for all of us, right? Your test score didn't define your whole college career, or even if it still kind of did, it sounds like you saw you adjusted your perspective on life, right? Which was probably for the better.
Definitely for the better for me.
And same for you. It's not getting to UC Berkeley. You had a great stint at UCSD.
Yeah.
For all of you out there who are so worried about college or even post-college, just know, just do your best in everything that you can or are passionate about. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay.
Yes.
It's okay.
So speaking about post-grad, we definitely encountered more failures and mistakes during our time in corporate. Mm-hmm. So do you guys remember a time during your corporate career that you're damn, I really messed up?
My biggest failure at a corporate job actually happened right before we went into ABG full time. This was the first time that I had been spoken to by a higher up person at the company about my performance not being satisfactory. So the way I had been there for a couple of months, and this was about one specific project. That was the first one that I had. It was a big project at that studio. And he had it was a combination of him and some of the leads on the project that came up and just were kind of we're noticing some skill discrepancies. And, his kind of pep talk was around, you just got to work harder and really put yourself into this. And some of the conversation was around how I was making a transition into a role where I had come from an in-house UX role and now I was going into a consultancy, and the way they practice their design is a little bit different. It's less applied focus and a little bit more broader and just they have their own approaches, right? I remember at that time just feeling so ashamed, and my automatic response was to assume responsibility. Yes, I'm not meeting expectation. These are the things that I should do, blah, blah, blah. In hindsight, now that I have more time to reflect, there was a lot about that situation where I was not set up to succeed. And in fact, that was one project of maybe 4 or 5 that I had worked on when I was there. And all of the other projects or maybe not of that studio space, I actually had gotten pretty positive reviews on. So I have kind of two major takeaways from that experience. One is to not automatically assume if you're being told to that you haven't done well, that it's like representative of your entire performance of everything there, right? Like I said, this is one project of 4. And with hindsight, when I talked to more individuals there and collected more data points, I realized that this wasn't like me not being skilled enough, or like, I think I had catastrophized it a bit in my head, right? The second is to be mindful of, or to cut myself a little bit more slack. This was maybe the 4th project I was on at that studio in a really short amount of time. A lot of people had come up to me and were like, you're working a crazy amount. It's not normal to be staffed this much and this quickly. So I think probably, yeah, my takeaway is just like, give yourself grace and pull more data points and not catastrophize when one failure is not determining of everything of that role.
Yeah. I mean, I think another thing that you just mentioned there, I remember I used to tell a lot of like my the staff or new people that came into a job, it's like, make sure you're setting boundaries for yourself, because if you're someone that's good at what you do, everyone's going to be like, be on my team and like fight for you and force you to like overwork yourself, because here you are entering a new space and you're like, let me prove myself. Make sure to set those boundaries so that you're not overworking and exhausting yourself, and inevitably that's going to cause work issues or performances because you're not able to balance everything at the same time. So definitely take note of that too.
Hello, it's Janet. I want to talk to you about something really important. I want to talk to you about my hair. Okay, so important is subjective, but if you have frizzy hair and are not a fan of spending tons of time on styling your hair, you feel me. I would rather be doing yoga, heading out to a coffee shop for work, or any number of different things, anything but styling my hair. I just don't have it in me, which is why I was really excited to try Ouai's new anti-frizz cream. It's a lightweight cream that provides immediate frizz control, and it lasts for up to 72 hours. What a godsend. You can use it on both dry and wet hair, so I've literally been putting it on all the time. After showers, between showers, anytime I need to leave the house and want to look presentable. It also smells really good. That Sydney-inspired North Bondi scent with notes of bergamot, Italian lemon, violet, and more. Ugh, I'm like smelling it as I'm saying it. Not only does it control my crazy frizzy hair, and if you're someone with lots of hair and also like to do hot yoga, you feel my struggle, but it also helps to reduce and repair split ends, which I appreciate because it means it's not just a Band-Aid solution. Ouai also has a bunch of other products, a detox shampoo, leave-in conditioner, hair oil, hair gloss, you name it. Frizz-free up your schedule with Ouai. Go to theouai.com and enter promo code ABG for 15% off any product. That's theouai.com, promo code ABG.
Okay, so my biggest career fail, I feel like, is when I realized I wasn't happy with my job. So it's because I feel like with my job, it was one where it was a hierarchical, is that how you say it? Hierarchical or hierarchical?
Don't ask me.
Gil. There's an I in there?
Hierarchical.
Our college,
E? Anyway. What?
Or hierarchical. Yeah,
Hierarchical.
to your point, not
Yes,
I.
okay. Structure where you basically, it was like an up or out situation. If you weren't getting promoted for a certain period of time, you're out, right? So for me, my goal was to make it to partner. Like, why else would you be at this job if you're not going to try and make it to partner? Otherwise, like, you should be leaving way earlier. Those are everyone's aspirations if they plan to stay at the firm for a long period of time. So that was always my goal. And when I had left after 10 years in, I remember thinking to myself, this is the biggest fail, like, of my career to leave this job because I couldn't will my way to the top. I thought to myself, of course I could. You know, anything I do, I put 110% into. I'm going to be able to do this. And when I realized, like, all right, got to cut the cord, took a while to do that. But when I did that, I just felt like that was the biggest career fail. I had, like, let down 21-year-old Helen, who was going into the tall glass building in the city of Boston, tallest building, you know, like that was such a dream for her. And to just stop that dream felt like a fail. But I will say that, you know, in hindsight, best decision of my life.
Yeah.
But like in the moment, it was a tough one. Yeah.
I still remember the day that we got the call from Phil or the text. He's like, hey, Helen had a rough day at work. And it was because it was that time, that moment you realized. And then Jan and I came over. We're like, oh, talking through like what happened. I know it was really tough for you then. But look at where you're at. Look at where you are now.
Thriving.
To be honest, for this question, I kind of had difficulty figuring out one moment. But when Janet said that she tended to catastrophize, that's what she learned through your experience, I realized the moment I can identify during my corporate career is because I tend to do that a lot, catastrophize every little thing. And so I remember, so what my, I guess, biggest fail is when, this is so small, but it led to something so great that really impacted my life, was I forgot to bring back a sign from a shoot. And that was it. Like, I forgot to bring a sign. I left it at the venue. And my producer was like, hey, Mel, did you get the sign? I go, no. And she's like, oh. And I could just tell with the reaction, I just disappointed her so much. And I just started spiraling that moment. Like, oh my God, how did I forget that? Like, you're so dumb. Like, you had a checklist, Mel. Like, you usually are on top of it. And then that's when my panic attack hit for the first time at work. And I was like, what is happening to me right now? And that small moment led to a panic attack. I was like, why? Like, how did this happen? And so through that experience is how I started going to therapy. And I think through therapy, I realized how much weight I hold on almost everything I do at work, to the point where I got to a panic attack because I forgot a sign. Like, how small, like something so small could lead to something so huge. So the whole experience, I stumbled upon therapy, which has definitely changed my life. And I learned not to hold so much weight on these things. And I think part of me felt so disappointed in myself in the moment because I wanted to make sure my producer knew that I had everything under lock or unlock, and like I was a good employee. And I realized that I place so much weight on what people think of my performance versus myself. Like, at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. Like, with work, with our line of work, you know, working in media, which I did too, that I'm not saving lives here. I forgot a sign. Or like, it's okay in the end. I think now as a manager, I learned to like be okay with things slip through the cracks sometimes because it's going to happen. So yeah, that was, I guess, my biggest fail because it led to one of my biggest like mental health incidents. I learned a lot too.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes you need these like fails, right, to actually realize like what you need in life too.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm sort of getting as the overall like theme from all of this. Yeah, like even with me, my job, I'm like, yeah, I needed that. I needed to say no more,
Right.
so that I can find what was right for me. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. When we started podcasting, an online store was really the furthest thing from our minds. Flash forward to 9 collections and 30-some items later, we have been able to share ABG with our listeners in physical form, all because we use Shopify. They are the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. If you are thinking about launching an online store and just starting out, or maybe you have an online shop and you're looking for a better platform, definitely check out Shopify. They help you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Wherever and whatever it is that you're selling, Shopify has you covered. They also have the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. If you run an online shop, you know that getting people to move from browsers to buyers is an industry-wide struggle. From that first t-shirt all the way through to our now almost 30-item store, Shopify is why we've been able to share ABG with you all in physical product form. And for that, we are ever thankful. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US, and they are the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. So you know that you'll be in good company. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way, because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ABG, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ABG now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/ABG. I mean, outside of work and school, what about relationships? Because there are lots of instances that we can have where we feel like we made a mistake or like something, like we failed in the relationship. What is something that you've had in your relationships where you felt like it was a fail?
Romantic or friendship?
It could be either.
Okay, I'm going to talk about friendship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I went through a friendship breakup. I pretty much got ghosted by one of my really good friends. And that was a fail for me because as someone that really values my friendships, to be cut off by someone with no explanation really hurt me. And I just felt like, what did I do wrong? Like, did I not do enough for the friendship? Did I not communicate my needs? Like, was I not there for you in the way that you needed? And I felt like without getting an explanation, I just felt like I had zero closure. And I think through that situation experience, I feel like a lot of trust was lost, and like, I don't know. It's just like my first time going through such a huge like friendship breakup. So I felt like I failed in some ways because I've never had this happen to me without like proper communication or like a proper breakup. So yeah, that's probably one of my biggest relationship fails.
Do you ever contact them and ask them why?
No, I just heard through the grapevine that this person also cut off other people in his life. And I was like, okay. So I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, it's like maybe you're going through something. And I think I had this thought, like, if I'm not the type of relationship that you need right now, or I remind you of something of your past that you may not be fond of, I'm going to just accept that as the answer because I can't change anything. I can't change where you are, that I'm just going to accept it. And hopefully down the road, our lives will cross again and maybe it'd be at a better time. But if not, I have to just like swallow and accept it is what it is. And you guys know the situation.
Yeah.
Like hearing that this person did this to other people as well, it sounds like that maybe helped you solidify like this isn't something that I necessarily did.
Yeah.
Because you say this is something that I feel like I failed at, right?
Yeah. There's parts of me that, I think you're right. It's just like a not comfortable feeling sometimes.
Right.
I feel like, oh my God, I got cut off for no reason.
Yeah,
I think that's the thing that bothers me the most is that like, why did my other friend, this person, get an explanation, but I didn't? And I was like, what did I do to not get an explanation?
Right.
So I was like, I think that's the thing I'm just sitting on. Like, what did I? Yeah, it's just like opened.
I'm super curious about that too, about why.
Yeah, maybe we'll find out one day.
Yeah.
But I do like that your takeaway is to learn to not have to, you don't need his explanation to move on, right? Like learning like that, that's not, if I am not told what I could have done wrong or right to fix, then I have nothing left to do here, right? But to accept it.
Yeah. I think just to add, the last thing I'll say about it is like, I think it bothers me so much because like, even though it's like, I think through work and like, even with, when you go through a breakup, usually it's like, hey, we can't like, I can't be with you anymore because of X, Y, and Z, or because of like, or at work, you're like, hey, you're underperforming because. I think the fact that I didn't get it because I'm just assuming, and I'm like letting the assumptions just kind of take over. So just like, I do definitely it's been in the past and it's been what, 2 years now?
Yeah.
That I'm like, okay, it is what it is, but it's just I like reasons. I like the why.
Yeah. Maybe the why will come hopefully sooner than later.
The real why versus my mind's why.
Yeah. I feel like in terms of a fail, nothing's really coming to mind to me, but in terms of like, because I feel like the existing relationship, I guess I'm thinking about more like existing relationships, it doesn't feel like anything's really a fail. If anything, it's like, maybe there are things that I can work on, right? In friendships or even in like romantic relationships. And one thing that I've noticed about me is that perhaps it's my Sagittarius side, but I am rather optimistic. And I think sometimes when it comes to like, say someone coming to me and like with a problem, right? And this was definitely in my 20s where I would try to like solutionize or just be like, hey, tomorrow's going to be a better day. Like, honestly, and I feel this for myself too. I'm like, that's not what they want to hear. You know, like maybe after the initial like intensity of what they're sharing is kind of over, that's a good thing to hear. But like in the moment, it's kind of just like, I just want to be able to share, right? Without someone trying to help solutionize or tell me like, it's fine, you know, let's move on. Like there are bigger things in life. I don't know. I think that's just one thing that I've caught myself on and have tried to correct myself in, because everyone's feelings are valid, right? Like, especially with my husband, with Philip, like he is someone that likes to feel things out before like moving on. And I'm the type of person that like, if you move on, you'll feel better, you know? And I noticed that is not the right approach, because everyone is different in how they feel and everyone's feelings are valid. So that's something that I've noticed in, you know, friendships and relationships that I can do better on. So, yeah.
I like that one a lot, because I think I used to have a tendency to want, or in general, I just like want to help people solve the problem, right? But sometimes you just need to like give them the space and the safety and the validation to like, to feel bad or to feel angry and let them kind of figure it out themselves.
Actually, I had it, it's funny, on the way here to the shoot, I think Ray was venting and I was like, well, how about you just say that? He's like, I just want to vent. I was like, okay, I'll have to
Mel.
I understand.
But I think it's really great in both of your relationship cases that they can communicate that. It feels safe to say,
oh yeah,
I just need a moment. And then you can be like, okay, then I can give you that moment.
Yeah. Actually, I legit said that to Philip like 2 days ago. So people do it all the time, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's true. It's like in a relationship or one where you feel secure, communicate that with your partner to say like, hey, this is how I actually need your like love right now, or how I need to be like treated or like coddled in a certain way. Like communicate that with them. How about for you, Jay?
Let's see. I was thinking recently about a maybe like probably this is something that people can relate to is we often feel like our calendars get booked and we get really busy, right? And especially as you get older and people start getting married, people start having kids, keeping your like friend dates becomes harder and harder. And because it's harder to set them because your calendars just don't match. And then when a date is set, oftentimes if something happens, like you get sick or something comes up, then you feel like, oh my God, if I don't make it to this meeting or to this hangout, I'm not going to see them again for X amount of time, right? So I recently had this where I was going through a particularly busy period in my life, and I was physically getting sick because it was like cold flu season, and I had like a hangout planned with a very good high school friend. And I hit a point where I kind of like had a bit of a meltdown, and I in hindsight should have just said, I don't need to go to this hangout with her. I need to take care of myself, right? Yeah. But in my mind, because I had messaged her, hey, I don't think I'm able to make it. And she's like, oh, I don't think we can get a refund on the tickets. And I'm sure if I had just called her up and been like, I'm not feeling too well, she would have been like, oh my God, totally. Yeah. But in my mind, I was like, oh no. Like, I just imagine like, if I don't, like we have to refund there's like so much to like jump through logistically. And then like, I feel so bad that like maybe I canceled on her last time, all that kind of stuff. I ended up going and it ended up being okay. But I think what I took away from that is it's okay. Like if you need to, in a friendship or relationship, like take more time for yourself, like just communicate that to them. And usually it's like it's gonna be fine, I guess. So that is
oh my gosh, I totally understand that feeling.
Yeah,
it's so bad, you know?
Yeah, I think I'm also the kind of person that I usually don't set things on my calendar unless I actually am gonna execute on it. And so if it's already been there and I've already and we've purchased tickets for it and everything, then I'm like, I don't want to cancel. But sometimes it's okay. Sometimes you need to cancel to take care of yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta protect your energy these days.
All right, since the three of us now are in our 30s, whoa, I could say that.
Could have said that.
I know, but still, that's like brings me back to our days when we started. But would you say that you're more or less afraid of failure now or in your 20s?
I would say that I am definitely less afraid now. Did you think I was going to say that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think all of us will say the same thing.
Oh.
Psychic!
Oh.
Well, we'll see.
Well, we'll see. Oh.
Wrong!
I say that despite the fact that now that I'm in my mid-30s and I do have a lot of external responsibilities now. We have, a child and family and 2 mortgages, and there's a lot of external responsibility. I can't just up and leave anymore, and I think about that sometimes. I'm like, wow, I really can't. I'm tied down and I need to take care of all of these things, right? So I think about that, but at the same time, I don't feel like I can't fail at something. And I think the reason for that is there's 2 reasons. One is because in my 20s, I feel like I worked my ass off to make sure that I was financially stable. That, even though it's it sucks that that is a thing, we live in a capitalistic society. Money is something that if you have financial freedom, it gives you freedom in many ways, right? Whether it's to change up your situation, to move, or to get out of something. I remember in my 20s, I was like, oh, I'm tied down to my corporate job because I need this. There's no way I can go and do another job because I don't come from generational wealth. I don't have that to support me. I'm supporting myself. So I need to build that up and stay here for as long as possible. That's one. And I think the second thing is because in my 20s, I didn't have a lot of those experiences to realize that I could be resilient, to trust myself and to be confident. And having gone through all the failures that we mentioned before, the I'm so hornies and everything, I realize I can be okay. So I'm not afraid to fail. I trust myself. I trust that no matter the situation, I'll figure it out. And I think that's why, even though there's so much more weight and responsibility on me now, I'm not scared to take any leaps. Yeah. As long as everyone's safe. How about for you, Janet? Now I'm curious what you're going to say.
Yeah, so I think about failure in different sectors of life, right? I think career, maybe the opposite of Helen, because in my 20s, I feel like I did fail my career. But I learned that I can bounce back from that. And nowadays, I don't, I mean, I think there's still the regular fear of like, I don't know, of maybe the unknown, right? But in terms of caring, like if I can take care of myself or like what it will look like, you know, like does my resume look perfect and that kind of a thing. I really, that kind of stuff, I'm much more okay with failing or being defined as a failure by the external world in my career. But I think with love and with personal romantic relationships, I am more afraid of things not working out now than I was in my 20s. I think some of that is just if my goal is to find a partner and to build a family, and I'm closer to the age where I feel a bit of a ticking time for that to happen. And not to say that there's not many other options, and I've talked about this in past episodes, but perhaps it feels a little bit more like the pressure is on. And so a failure has higher consequences now. And also I think emotionally, I'm still coming off of a year of a pretty big, like I wouldn't call it a failure, but I would call it, you know, something that didn't work out. And the sting of that emotionally and mentally means that I am still vulnerable and I still have a very much like more real, raw reaction, like emotionally to that, to failure in that sector in my life. So I would say less afraid of failure for career things, more afraid of failure when it comes to love. How about you, Mel?
I think for me, I am definitely less afraid of failure in my 30s. I will say the 20s has prepared me. I think your 20s always prepare you for your 30s in different ways. I feel like 20s is like the decade of risk for me. Like I pursued my passion. I'd made no money and had to like find a job. Like all these things like made me prepared me to, I guess, like prepare me for almost anything in my 30s. That I also feel like the last couple of years I got into a place where I know I'm going to give it my all. And for me, giving my all that within my own capabilities as Mel is good enough for me. And with that, I feel like I trust in myself to make the best decision if anything were to arise. Let's say a failure does happen. I will give myself the grace, like, it's okay. You're going to be okay. And you're going to pick yourself up and try it again or do something else, but not shame myself for having a failure. Because again, in the past experience, like I said, the whole like panic attack thing, I know the result of being hard on myself. So I'm not going to do that again. So how can I practice grace, but also work really hard for what I want in this decade? So it's just like, I think I just take comfort in the fact that like, I'm going to put my all into everything I do. I'm not going to half-ass it. It's like, you're going to see proactiveness for me. So then if I failed, I know I failed trying my best. And I'm okay with that result.
So as we wrap this episode up for our listeners, do we have any tips for how to bounce back from failures and mistakes?
I think first it's important to acknowledge what the setback is, right? To kind of, because sometimes we want to avoid it or we want to ignore it, run away from it. But I think it's important to face it head on. And a lot of these times when you're facing it head on, you're going to have all of this negative self-talk. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you do that? How are you unable to, you know, process and operate as a human like everyone else could? And there's so much negative self-talk when this stuff happens. But just know that this is all a part of normal life. You know, everyone goes through failures and mistakes. It is a part of normal life. So being able to identify the setback, what are some things that you can control next time and can't control, and letting go of the things that you can't control. And just knowing that for the things that you can't control, that the next time it happens, it's not going to happen again. And even if it does, right, to give yourself grace because you will have survived that first initial failure moment. One last thing, to surround yourself with friends that you can talk to, because I think a lot of times, whether it's like you're embarrassed by these moments and you just don't want to share it, like especially my D+, I was like, no one's going to know about it and I'm dying inside. I think if I were to have shared it with some friends, then I would have been able to like release that, and maybe they're like, me too. I also, my teacher got sent an email that said something else, you know, like, I don't know. We could then I wouldn't feel so alone in that situation. So find friends that you can talk to and share with them how they can support you. Yeah.
Great advice. My advice might mimic Helen a little bit, but I do think the first thing is to acknowledge your feelings, because I know, again, if you ignore your feelings, you're not only accepting what happened, This is so cheesy, but I do believe that all these setbacks are a learning lesson for you. So kind of pull yourself back from the situation and be like, okay, what can I work on to prevent myself from letting this happen again? I do think if you don't actually kind of assess what happened and to figure out solutions, this is going to happen again, and it's going to become a cycle of failure, possibly. Like sometimes it is a behavioral thing. Like, what can I change with my behavior to accept the situation better? And I do think you need to have these moments for yourself, or like I said, again, you're going to encounter it and you're going to feel like crap. So feel your feelings, kind of think through like what can you do better. And Helen told me this before for work, because I had a minor mistake at work before, and she said, figure out what happened, but be prepared better for next time. I think preparation for me always helped me.
Did I say that?
Something about preparation. So I'm always trying to be as
Planning
prepared.
to fail is failing to plan. Wait, failing to plan is planning to fail.
So I've taken that as a motto.
Yes.
A motto.
A motto.
Yeah. I don't know. Just
Yeah. Anything else to add, Jay?
I think of this like random quote from, I think it's like a Charles Bukowski, who's like a writer, and he says, what matters is how well you walk through the fire. And it's very similar to, I think, what you ladies have shared, and that's just the quote that if I had to summarize in one statement to help me the next time I go through a failure or a mistake, because it will happen and it'll happen to all of us, is to remind yourself that walk through that fire with grace for others in the situation, but especially for yourself. So what matters is how you walk through those failures and mistakes, and to do it in such a way that is loving to those around you and also, most importantly, to yourself.
Well, I feel like this episode was a good one to show you all out there that not everyone's perfect. We're not perfect here at all. We've gone through a lot of our own personal failures in all of these different arenas. Everyone has different moments of failure, yet life moves on, you know, like time heals all wounds. It is not an end-all be-all. Just know that you will recover from any of the failures, maybe even that you're currently feeling right now. So just remind yourself of that. This is just a moment in time. And a quote that I know, Janet, you like to say a lot is, this too shall pass.
This too shall pass.
I was going to say time heals all wounds, but this too shall pass. And I think if we accept that failure is just a part of life, that then it won't take such a big toll on us.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you again, everyone. And with that, we will catch you all in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.